Hello and welcome back to the Full On Football podcast, part two of predicting the group stages of the World Cup. Dews, thanks for sticking about for part two.
Let's get going.
Let's get going. Group E, straight off the bat, we've got Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. A fascinating group as far as I'm seeing it, because Costa Rica, that terrifies me back to 2014 when they actually won the group of death. That really, really worries me. A lot of people are tipping Spain to go really far. So starting with Spain, how are they going to do this tournament? Because I'm not perhaps as convinced as some people.
Yeah, Spain are passing FC. In the Nations League, they hit 60% possession in every game besides one. And in that one, it was 59% in their loss to Switzerland, which kind of tells you everything you need to know about Spain. They will pass you to death, but they do lack that elite goal scorer. They only scored 8 in the Nations League. But in fairness, they didn't concede many either. I think they only conceded 2 or 3. It'll be very tiki-taka, as you can imagine, with wingers cutting inside, such like Ferran Torres, Marco Asensio, Ansu Fati. The midfield 3 will likely involve Pedri, Gavi, and then one of Busquets or Rodri. Personally, I'll go with Rodri. I think Rodri's just a much better footballer now. He's a bit more athletic than Busquets. They should have enough to get through this group, but when you get further, they might struggle to kill off a game or even get one goal in a game. That might be their undoing.
It's interesting you mentioned about Busquets. I can near enough guarantee you, I've not spoke to Luis Enrique, Busquets will start.
100%.
100%. He's captain, he'll start. There's no doubt that they'll probably end up playing Busquets and Rodri because Spain, as we know, are quite happy to play 6 midfielders if needs be. It's all about keeping the ball, isn't it? So
absolutely.
But yeah, you're right about the lack of the striker, the lack of obviously back in 2010, they did have David Villa, they did have Fernando Torres. Those players were a little bit different to everyone else and fitted into the team and got them to go where they needed it. Costa Rica, I don't know a lot about Costa Rica, so educate me.
So Costa Rica are like the oldest team on the planet. 11 of these players are over 30 and a lot of them will play. They started off qualification horribly. I can actually remember it really, really well. They started off terribly. Shocking form. Like the fact they're even here is quite incredible. They lost to Canada kind of like halfway through this qualification, and they haven't looked back. They've become so difficult to beat. They just play a 5-4-1 and let the team just come at them. They're the usual suspects to be there: Celso Borges, Brian Ruiz, Oscar Duarte, Keylor Navas. When you are playing so defensive, you can do that because Keylor Navas is still an elite keeper. They've only lost one of their last 13, and after that loss to Canada, all their qualifying games would be like 1-0s and 0-0s until the last game of qualification, which they had to win. They beat a weak USA side 2-0. They're fine. They're not going to wow anyone. They're going to sit back against Spain. Don't be shocked if it's like 80% possession for Spain.
But ends 0-0. Wouldn't be shocked at all. In terms of not wowing anyone, Germany are a side that I think is probably as weak as they've ever been. Maybe they're not, but they seem to be.
Yeah.
But then, yet again, you still wouldn't write them off having a good tournament. They're a weird side like that. They just consistently get to semi-finals onwards. There was a stat for a long time. I think they'd not got to the semi-final for something like, I don't even know, like 12 major tournaments or something ridiculous. But they obviously broke that now because they went out early in the World Cup last time. Was it group stages?
Group stages, yeah.
Euros round of 16. So there is that pattern that's broke a little bit. Having said that, a little bit of roulette theory, as I call it. Perhaps they're due a good tournament, despite the fact they don't have the best team in the world. You'd expect them to go through this group. How are Germany lining up? They seem to favour the back 5, right?
Germany recently have actually been going like a 4-2-3-1. With like Gundogan and Kimmich as their like holding midfielders. Again, they're a little bit like Spain in the sense that they don't have a killer goal scorer. Ever since Flick took over from Jogi Löw after that Euros, they have been scoring a lot of goals, but it's only against like the weak sides, consistently anyway. They put 5 past Italy, they put 3 past Germany, put 3 past England, but it wasn't consistent. It was very the other games were like 0-0s, 1-1s. And that's that Nations League run that does kind of put me off them. What was it? 1 win? I think they got 1 win. Which it was 1 win against Italy. They have brought in 2 new strikers though for this World Cup. in Yusuf Makoko from Borussia Dortmund, who's like a young 17-year-old who's quick.
17, yeah.
Yeah, quick lad, strong in the air. He's had a very good season, to be fair. And Niklas Füllkrug from Werder Bremen, he's a focal point, but he's a goal scorer. He's top scorer in the league, I think, at the moment. In fact, I think he scored their only goal against Oman in the last friendly. They'll dominate the ball against the likes of Costa Rica and Japan. That's just how they play. Trying to make that right decisions, but as I say, they've got good players like Jamal Musiala, Thomas Muller. That lack of a finisher might just hamper them. But like you say, one thing with Germany in a tournament, you can never count them out.
Never count them out. And I'm quite impressed by the fact you just said the 4-2-3-1, playing Kimmich in his natural position, because obviously one of those started as right back, gone into a holding midfield role, but he probably is a holding midfielder but can play right back as opposed to the other way around. So getting him in that role, because he is such a good player, could be vital for their tournament. Japan, are they going to upset anybody this tournament? Because you're looking at that group, it's obvious for two, everybody thinks going to go through. I would stick with that. Are Japan going to cause an upset?
They're the most likely out of Japan and Costa Rica. They're really inconsistent, to be fair. They're a side that like to transition quickly with their pacey forwards, such as Minamino, Ito, and Mitoma, the lad from Brighton. If they deploy their game plan correctly, they have the quality to beat a Germany or a Spain. But if they don't, you can see them getting played off the park and absolutely battered. I do worry for them. I don't think this is the tournament for them. I just think they've been given a pretty tough group. And I just don't see them getting through. I just think the other two sides will eventually break them down and score. But they do have that counter-attacking ability.
Who are the two sides that are going to progress through?
Spain top, Germany second, Japan third, Costa Rica fourth.
Spain, then Germany. On to Group F. Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. Another fascinating group.
Yeah.
Fascinating group. Belgium, aside the obviously the golden generation, so-called, they do remind me a lot of the English golden generation. You look at it on paper and you're just baffled how to. And it's very similar to the England golden generation, where they've not even got close to winning anything. They've really not got that close. And England very much the same. It's one last chance for them. It's now or never. All of the players are aging. They're weaker now than they would have been 4 years ago, because it's the same squad, just with aging players. What sort of tournament are they going to have?
I think they'll get out of this group, but I don't think they'll go very far. I think that golden generation has kind of gone now. I know you just said it's their last chance. I personally think it's gone. In the last World Cup, they had a back three of Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Vincent Kompany. That's completely changed now. They haven't given the new breed enough time to kind of make their mark yet for this World Cup, and they're very reliant on De Bruyne and Courtois. They've been inconsistent in games, even getting battered by the Netherlands 4-1 in the Nations League. I just think their time is up now. They should get out of this group, but they won't go very far, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And when I say the golden generation, I think it's just because the likes of Hazard, De Bruyne, Lukaku are still there. Yeah. But like you said, Moussa Dembele, Witzel's not as good as he was a long time ago. Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Kompany, none of those are there. So half the golden generation are already gone, and the other half are older and not perhaps as good, with the exception of De Bruyne and Courtois, as they once were. Canada, we had Eric Frank on the show, and he's got his fingers crossed that Canada might just sneak it through. The obvious player, Alphonso Davies, but he did say it's not all about Alphonso Davies. He's got a free role playing for Canada. How do you think they're going to shape up, and how are they going to fare in this group?
Well, these guys could really surprise people. I can understand Eric's optimism. They were the best team in CONCACAF qualifying, and it was a real surprise. But then you look at some of the players they've got, it's not that surprising. You look at like Atiba Hutchinson, Jonathan David, Jonathan Osorio, Tejan Buchanan, even Alphonso Davies, as you said. And they've also got Kyle Larin, who was the top scorer in the whole qualifying campaign out of every out of all the what's the word? I've lost the word now. Every organisation, besides one lad from the UAE. But out of every team that's qualified, he was the top scorer with 13 goals in qualifying. I don't think they will blow sides away. But don't be surprised if these guys take points. They are very capable. They've got that goal scoring talent, and they do defend just solid. John Herdman as coach. He's a very sound coach. He's from England. He used to manage the Canadian women's national team and the New Zealand women's national team. And he's taken that step now to the men's game. And he's taken his Canada side from nobodies to just a brilliant team. And they are more than capable of taking points off other teams.
They absolutely are. And that's something that Eric was keen to stress when he came on the podcast. Morocco, is there any chance of them causing an upset in this group, or do you think it's too big of an ask?
I do think it's too much to ask. They're in good form, but their opponents weren't great in the international friendlies they've recently played. They'll play a 4-3-3, which I don't think suits a couple of their best players. It'd be three up top with the likes of Sofiane Boufal, Youssef Enyazeri, and Hakim Ziyech up top, who's now returned. But what I mean by the 4-3-3 doesn't suit their best players, they've got Hakimi and Mazraoui as their fullbacks. Mazraoui usually plays on the left. These are two players that I think are better at wing back because you can utilize their attacking abilities a lot more. Hakimi's not a great defender. Hakimi's so much better going forward. And they're going to have to rely on their more like destructive midfielders per se. But I don't think they're quite good enough to get out of this group.
You'd think with Hakimi and Ziyech, the two players that are standing out for me there, playing on that right-hand side, it would lean towards playing a 3-4-3, well, 5-2-3, if you will.
Yeah.
Getting that wing back overlapping, but also getting Ziyech wide of a front three. Croatia are a side that remind me, your commentary around Belgium probably takes, I think a lot of that would apply to Croatia personally. I feel like they've got a lot of the same side as they did perhaps 4 years ago, just that they're a little bit older. The only one is obviously Modric is 37, but he just seems to be as good as he's ever been.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. And you feel like he probably peaked at 34, 33, 34. And even at 37 now, he's still amazing me. I can only think Kevin De Bruyne is better than him. But other than that, there can't be many midfielders worldwide that are better.
There aren't many, no.
There aren't many that are better than Luka Modric, even at 37. Kovacic in midfield. I do think so much of it comes down to that midfield with Croatia.
Yeah, that's what I've put here. They're not incredible goal scorers. They've got like Andre Kramaric, Livaya from Hajduk Split. It's all about that midfield. It really is, and they're capable of doing it. You know, finalist in the 2018 World Cup. I think they topped their Nations League group. They did above Denmark and France, winning their last 5 games. But it is all about that midfield. Modric, Kovacic, and Brozovic. It's such a strong midfield. They can control any game. They can break any line. It doesn't matter. They are quality. If they top this group, really wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. But I do think they just lack a lot of goals. They're kind of a side that if they score 2, they'll be fine. But if they score 1, they might be struggling to beat a good side.
So with Group F, how's that group going to finish?
Croatia top, Belgium second, Canada third, Morocco fourth.
Group G, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Now, Switzerland, a team for me, I think could shock a few. But Brazil, obviously, tournament favourite. So starting with Brazil, are they just going to go through? Is it that easy? Are they going to win the group?
I mean, yeah, they should do. A little bit like England. They're one of those sides that just have pretty much a better player than the rest of the team in every position. They're actually pretty defensively sound. They score a lot of goals. They top their qualifying group, and the key player is Neymar. Is it his last World Cup? Who knows? But they have so many options. I know there's been a lot of talk about like Firmino and Richarlison, who should why isn't Firmino there? Firmino's been in great form. Brazil don't really pick players on like club form. They often do just pick players off how well they've been doing for Brazil. And Richarlison's been fantastic for Brazil. I think he scored something stupid like 7 in the last 8. And you know what he's like? He's a nuisance. Even if you bring him off the bench, you've got a big 6'1" lad who's willing to put his body about. It's a very good option. The fullback situation does worry me a little bit. You've got like Alex Telles, Alexandro at left backs, neither in good form. Danilo or Dani Alves, who's 89 years of age. I would be surprised if they don't get 9 points in this group. Well, no, maybe not 9, 7.
7. I actually look at this and I think it's not as easy a group as it might seem. By all means, they might get 7, 9 points. I'm sure they will win it. Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon, none of them are mugs. None of them are
Oh
mugs
no,
at all.
absolutely not.
Serbia is actually Eric's pick to be the dark horse and go through. So how do you think Serbia are going to do? Who are they reliant on?
Uh,
Who are their
I, I
best
fully
players?
I, I fully get it because this Serbia side is all about the goals, all about them goals. They topped the Nations League group, scoring loads of goals. Although that was the second tier, the Nations League. They rely on Dusan Vlahovic, Alexander Mitrovic. They're solid in the midfield. They can leak a couple of goals every now and then. They're not impenetrable. It's that front line, though, isn't it? You just can't. Like, what's Mitrovic's record? Like 50 goals in 71 games. It's
Like
crazy for Serbia.
50 and 76 or something. What do you? The amazing thing about this is a lot of people obviously he'd had a couple of stabs at the Premier League. It didn't quite work. I always believed personally. I'm not trying to be wise after the event. There was context behind that. I always thought he was a good player because I look at that international player. They play a lot of the same teams that England do.
Yeah.
So for him to get 50 and 76 when Rooney took 53 and it took about 118 games or something, you've got to be some player to be able to do that. And he's so dominant and so physically dominating in the air. And yeah, I do think a lot of their hopes probably pinned on him.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't count these dudes out. The goals they will score, they will probably score in every single one of these games, and that's where they'll get through, in my opinion, is
So
their goals.
wow, wow. So taking it Switzerland, that would mean presumably, I'm not going to reveal your order at this point, but you've probably just shown your hand there. Switzerland probably won't, and Switzerland have got a really good side. And someone like Grant, I'm a massive. I'm probably one of the most against Granit Xhaka. I just don't. I've never rated him as a footballer. I've never been sure what he was good at, and I'm going to hold my hands up. I've been doing it regularly on this podcast. It's a weekly thing where I'm just saying Granit. Judging things as they are, judging on merit. This season, he's probably in team of the season this year. He has been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference between like Serbia and Switzerland, I'm taking Serbia through because they will score plenty of goals. Switzerland, however, probably have a better team. They've come into this World Cup in really good form. Actually, they lost their first three Nations League game, but then they flipped it and they won their next three against like Spain, Portugal, and another side I can't remember who. And they've had their recent tournament, the Euros. That was brilliant, weren't they? They beat France in the round of 16, and then they only lost to Spain on penalties in the quarters. It's a much more solid side. They got that control in Granit Xhaka, players like Jibril So, Shaqiri. You know what he's like in international tournaments. Goal machine. He loves it.
Loves a big game, doesn't he, Shaqiri?
Yeah, I am banking on Serbia to go ahead of them. But would it shock me? No. If Switzerland finish second, nah.
Cameroon, is there something in this? Is Samuel Eto'o got it right?
No, he hasn't. No.
So you don't think they're going to make it out the group, but yeah, he thinks they're going to win the whole thing.
I don't think they will. It's top heavy FC, mate. They've got like Choupo-Moting, Carl Toko-Ekambi, Abubakar. They did qualify quite comfortably. But again, they're very capable of just conceding a few goals. It's just such a dangerous game to play. And against like Brazil and Serbia, who have genuine goal scorers, I think they'll concede a few. I do worry for them.
Certainly would expect them to concede a few in that group. And if it was up to me, I'm going to ask you your order in a second, but I'd have them fourth in the group, which to me just showcases that Samuel, if you're listening, I think you've got it completely wrong. I think you've lost your head, to be honest. What's the order of this group? Group G.
Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon.
Excellent. Brazil,
I feel
Serbia,
bad for putting Switzerland third because they're a very good team.
They certainly are, but we'll stick with that order. Serbia, Switzerland, it's a toss-up, and you've backed our man Alexander Mitrovic.
Yeah.
Group H, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Now, two teams there probably standing out to go through. Is it as simple as that? Starting with Portugal, I'm not going to go into the Ronaldo saga, but that will have an impact, I'm sure, somewhere, whether it's a positive impact, whether it's a negative impact, it probably will have some kind of impact as to how Portugal perform, just in terms of the camaraderie of the group, etc. Are they in for a good tournament, Portugal?
I mean, on paper, they absolutely should be. They've arguably got the best team here at this World Cup. It's stacked, fantastic players everywhere. But there's something about that team, like Fernando Santos. They're very, very like set in their way, the way they play. They're not free flowing. they're not gonna blow teams away. However, when you got CR7, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I just I just think they're going to be held back by the manager personally. I mean, they weren't great in the Nations League. They were okay. They weren't anything spectacular. They've lost Diogo Jota, which I think is a big miss, personally. I do wonder, will that team carry them through like far? I'm just not sure.
So just quickly on Ronaldo, obviously not making the top 30 in the Ballon d'Or votings this time round. It's a it's a massive fall. I'm not sure it's justified, to be honest. Really controversial, but if he was still at Real Madrid, I still think he'd probably be their main man, and he'd probably still, I know Benzema's just won the Ballon d'Or. It's not that easy, but there's every chance he'd have still been up on the podium in the top three if he was still playing in that Real Madrid side. Maybe not. We will never know. I still think he's a fantastic footballer. I think you made some great points about Jota missing. Yeah, and just the fluidity of that side, it's probably not as good as it should be on paper. Ghana. Are Ghana going to cause an upset at the World Cup?
Will Garner, mate. Will Garner. No, I don't think so. They're the lowest ranked side going into this World Cup. Actually, I think they're 50th in the world rankings. They've still got players such as like Andre Ayew, Jordan Ayew, the lads. They don't really like entice me. They've got some solid players. Like Inaki Williams is a solid player, but he's not a great goal scorer. Same with Mohamed Kudus from Ajax. Thomas Partey's been in fantastic form. I just don't think they're good enough to get through.
Based on the fact Antoine Semenyo from Bristol City has been selected in Ghana's side, I think they've got every chance. They really do. No, not really. I'm not really. Just a bit of Bristol City bias coming out there. Uruguay's hopes. Obviously, a lot being made around. I've heard a lot of people tipping Darwin Núñez for Golden Boot. A really interesting one because he obviously is a chance machine. We all know that. Cavani's still going to play, I would have thought. Suarez probably still going to play as well. How does that side shape up?
But to be honest, it will likely be a Suarez and Núñez duo. That's more likely anyway, according to the rumors. But this Uruguay side, I fully get why they're dark horses. Some fantastic players. You've got like Jose Jimenez, Ronald Araujo, Rodrigo Bentancur has been brilliant for Spurs. You've always got Suarez. You never know what he can do. Fede Valverde's arguably the best midfielder in the world this season. And a good players like Georgian de Arrascaeta, who plays for Flamengo, was very good in this the recent Copa Libertadores. He's number 10. He scored a Puskás winning goal recently, actually. These guys will make it through. I think I predicted these guys to get to the final because they might have a very good run, like in terms of teams they could face. There's every potential. It's experience. There's a lot of youth. At the same time, it's just a good team. It's energetic. It's solid, and there's goal scorers there.
And finally, in Group H, ending the entire of the 32 predictions, South Korea. How well are they going to fare this World Cup?
Is Heung-min Son inside?
Yes, yeah.
He made it, didn't he? Yes, he
Yeah.
did. I mean, he's their leader, isn't he? He's their main goal threat. How will they do? I don't know. I can't see them making it out of this group. I just don't. Again, I don't think they're good enough.
Too reliant on Heung-min Son, who's just coming back from obviously that terrible injury.
I'd say so. He scored. The last 5 games he's played, he scored in 4 of them. They are capable of like scoring a lot of goals against teams like Chile, Paraguay, Egypt. They all scored like more than 1, but they did get battered by Brazil. Their recent form isn't great. It's okay, nothing special. They have kept a lot of clean sheets, to be fair. Last 4 out of 5 games, they've kept clean sheets. So if they want to work on that, they could. But I just don't think they got the quality to get out of this group.
So who does have the quality to make it out of Group H, and what order is it going to be?
I think it'd be Uruguay, Portugal, South Korea, Ghana.
Well, there you have it. That is the entirety of the 32 reviewed over the last 2 episodes, where Dews has told you which 16 sides will be progressing through. Dews, thanks very much for your time. Hopefully, let's see how many predictions you get right. You'll do well to get 8, won't you?
Yeah, I'd say so.
No, you'll do better than that. 12 at least. Cheers very much, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.